Okay. Shkoyach Lenny, beautiful Lenny.
I just made it.
Sir. Chavra, today's Monday, the 22nd day of Elul, September 15th, Donnie Kanofsky's birthday. Happy birthday, Donnie. We're on page 49. I know, but I don't know his Hebrew birthday. Oh, yeah. I think you're right. Okay. In today, epistle 16, here's an overview. An appeal to give generously for the basic necessities of our brethren, especially the impoverished, ahead of our own luxuries and comfort. You're going to go on a vacation, somebody's struggling for food, you got to take care of them first. In today's lesson, when do a person's own needs come before helping another person? Our obligation to help a fellow with his essential needs, like food. 16, Tezayin. Lanshe, Kihilas V'chulu, to the members of the community. Ahuvai Achavrei Asher Kenafshi, my brethren, my beloved, my friends who are like me, to my own, like my own soul. In the hardship of these times are not hidden from me. It seems like nothing has changed, huh?
What year was this?
Yeah, like 250 years ago. It's we still have we're still in Gullus. In that the means of earning a livelihood have declined. We're in a bit of a recession. Times are tough. Befrat yuduim li mimechanechem asher mata yadam, especially those known to me from your community whose hands have faltered. Belishum sayin mishaina. I'm sorry, mashain mashaina. They are without any providers at all, with no work available to either husband or wife. Oh, that's interesting. See, it's not just the husband that's working, they're both working. Like today, it's tough on both of them. They literally borrow to eat. Hashem yirachem alehem v'yarchev lahem b'tzar b'korev. Hashem should find compassion and show them compassion and speedily redeem them from their difficulties. V'im kol zeh, nevertheless, lo yitayv heim oisim lenafsham. They're not acting rightly onto their souls. L'fi haneshama asher kaftu yodam hapsucha me'oidam ad hayim hazeh. According to reports, that they have closed their hand, which all their lifelong to this very day has been open. So even people that are struggling, maybe they lost their job, maybe things are a little bit tight, but suddenly they're not giving stuck anymore. That's what the Alter was saying here. Litem yad mle'av ayin yafa. They used to give generously with an open hand. Hitzarchu hechreichayim lidei machsoide ha'evyoinim nikim. They used to give with a generous eye all the needs of the people, and the people who really, really needed it. They were sick, they were destitute, whatever the case might be. Asher nehem nesuais eleinu, whose eyes are lifted onto us, the poor people. If we wouldn't pity them, then who will? The pasuk says, so that your brother may live with you, meaning one should share with his brethren even that which is most essential for one's own life. We're not talking about if you're in the desert and there's only one bottle of water and one of you are going to live. We're talking about, basic necessities, you have to share. Lo amru chayecha koidmin ela ishabyad echad kitoin shel mayim. As the ruling of the sages say, your own life takes precedence. This applies only in the case when one has a pitcher of water in hand. This is a case if a traveler in the desert has just enough water. Shulchan Aruch talks about this, that he only has enough water to sustain his own life until civilization is reached. And if he shares it with his friend, they will both die. Then his life takes precedence. So if you're in such a case where you only have one bottle of water, and if you share it, then you're both going to die, then you keep it, then you drink it. Otherwise, you got to share everything you have down to the last dollar. That is when is, and by the way, there's, okay, so the Shulchan Aruch there talks about also life-threatening situations. Like if you're going to jump in the river to save someone, and you'll likely be swept away and killed, and the chances are high that you'll drown as well, then it's not only that you're not allowed to jump in to save him in a rushing river. But anyway, so obviously you have to live, but if you have an opportunity to help someone else, and it's just a matter of cutting some luxuries off, we could always think of ways, that there are things that we can cut out in our lives. There are trips that we make, and there's extra food that, we could live simpler lives and still be able to help others without shutting the door and saying, listen, times are tough, I can't help you. That's the thought that I was basically saying. Now, if a poor person, a pauper, needs bread to feed the mouths of his babies, and firewood and clothes against the cold and the like, called varim elu kaidmin lechol malbushe kvoid kaved v'zevach v'shpacha basar v'dagim v'chol matamim shel ha'adam v'chol bnei beisai. And this is not just a request. This is Shulchan Aruch. This is what we live by. That a person takes who needs, and a person who's begging for food to warm his home and to give his kids food, all this takes precedence over any fine apparel and family feasts. You don't go buy new clothes and have fish and meat and all kinds of delicacies for oneself and one's household. The rule that your own life takes precedence does not apply, because you're still going to eat. You're just not going to have the fancy meal that you usually have. Because these are not really essentials to life, as are the needs of the poor in true equality. Isa ben Nedarim Daf Pei is discussed in the Gemara, Nedarim, page 80. Daf Beis. So the Gemara speaks about a stream that originates in one's town and flows through another. If it does not provide enough drinking water for both towns, the water rights belong to the inhabitants of the first town. They get to cut off the water so that they have enough to live. Just like we need Torah in order to live, we also need water, vice versa. But you get what I'm saying. So the same applies to the water that both towns need for their livestock or for washing their clothes. So this is basic necessities. If, however, the second town needs drinking water for its citizens, while the first town only needs the water for washing clothes, then the needs of the second town prevail. Okay, you're going to have dirty clothes, but both of you are going to be able to drink water and live and sustain yourself. So we thus see from the perspective that needs are not exactly equal. And one does not say one's life takes precedence, even in a situation where one's own needs are quite real and far from frivolous. So when fathers and mothers are crying out for bread for their little ones and for firewood and clothing to protect them from cold, this surely takes precedence over the valid but nonetheless essential needs of one's own family. Baruch Hashem, we live in a country that this is nearly impossible to find somebody who doesn't have food. There are all sorts of programs and there are all sorts of organizations that will help with food and with shelter and Section 8 and different things. Nevertheless, we certainly don't have to go over and above the top if we know that somebody else is struggling. So let's apply it on a very practical level and make sure that we give tzedakah, especially now, not just in the month of Elul, but already in Slichas. So before Slichas starts and before davening, I asked the Rav last week because somebody pressed me. Ask the Shaila whether you can give tzedakah at night and whether you could say Tehillim at night. Because generally there's certain mazalis that we wait until, that's why we wait Slichas till after midnight. So generally we don't. So the Rav answered, if there's a need, then you do. And today's need is very great, for sure, for when it comes to tzedakah. When it comes to Tehillim, all you have to do is have in mind somebody who's not doing well. And we all certainly know people that are not doing well. Maybe physically they need a refuah shlema, or spiritually, or we could have in mind the Eretz Yisrael and the soldiers. So we should constantly, Rabbi Lesher said to me, you say Tehillim, the Eibishter likes your Tehillim. You just keep saying. Let me finalize with this. The takeaway is Hashem bless you. But another person might be struggling, so our luxuries have to be pushed aside, and we have to make sure to be a giver even when we are in need, maybe of a job, or maybe more, or maybe things are tough. But nevertheless, we certainly should be able to dig deep and provide for others, especially in this month of Elul. A good and have a wonderful day.